Dexter, the titular vigilante serial killer in Showtime's series, crossed paths with a variety of horrible human people. It was his mission to become justice when none was served. And one of his strongest plot arcs came in season 4 when he faced off against the Trinity killer. Though much of Dexter was implausible and complicated, there were probably genuine stories that inspired the show, and vice versa. The show pushed viewers to engage in illegal behavior. Stay tuned to find out true stories that inspired Dexter, along with all the details surrounding the new season. The Trinity killer was inspired and partly based on the BTK killer. Dennis Rader was born in 1945 and had quite a relatively average, quiet life in Kansas as a family man before becoming an aggressive serial killer. This is comparable to Dexter's attraction to Miller on the show, as he appears to be a cornerstone of the community, a devoted family man, and represents a way of life that Dexter aspires to emulate. All of this happens after Dexter marries and has 2 stepchildren as well as a baby boy. Rader was a true wolf in sheep's clothing who remained unnoticed for many years. He began killing in 1974 and was accused of murdering 10 persons in the Wichita, Kansas area between 1974 and 1991. Trinity was given that moniker because he murdered 3 people in 3 different places throughout the country. A father bludgeoned to death with a hammer, a mother pushed to death to imitate suicide, and a young woman killed in her bathtub with a femoral artery wound. Trinity's victims were men and women from his own family, chosen to symbolize his own trauma. Rader also targeted families, albeit his victimology wasn't as consistent. And he didn't pick just any family. His victims included both men and women, ranging in age from 9 to 62. After sending multiple letters and taunting to a television station, Rader was given the moniker BTK, which stands for Blind Torture Kill. Rader, on the other hand, was not apprehended for these crimes until much later. He stopped killing after 1991 because he no longer had the time to prepare, and his responsibilities as a husband, father, and community organizer prevented him from carrying out his plans. The investigation stayed cold for a while, but when he resumed mailing letters in 2004, the case was reopened, and Rader was apprehended in 2005. Rader sent Catherine Ramsland, who was preparing a book on him, a list of 55 projects, what he dubbed possible victims he'd tracked over his dormant years. While not as forward-thinking as the Trinity killer in Dexter, Rader's atrocities cemented his reputation as one of America's deadliest serial killers, attracting the attention of Stephen King, who based his novella Full Dark, No Stars on him. A real-life Dexter case. The popular TV show features Dexter Morgan, a forensic scientist who has a second life as a vigilante serial killer who hunts down murderers. While this may appear to be an impossible concept, it is comparable to Pedro Rodriguez Filho's account. He's not a forensic technician, but he has killed a lot of criminals. The Brazilian serial killer, also known as Pedrinho Matador or Killer Petey, has been accused of murdering at least 71 people. While he maintains the number is closer to 100 because his father viciously assaulted his mother while he was still in the womb, the 66-year-old was born with a fractured skull. When he was 13, he nearly killed his cousin when he first felt the need to murder. He did not fully act on his impulses until a year later. Pedro assassinated the vice mayor of Alfenas because he fired his father based on unfounded allegations that he was stealing food from the kitchen at the school. He then proceeded to murder the individual he suspected of stealing food supplies. He was only a mere 14 years old at the time. He changed places, assassinated a drug dealer, and fell in love with Maria Olympia. In the name of vigilance, he raked up a massive corpse count in Morgue de Cruzes, Sao Paulo. When Olympia was murdered by gang members, Killer Petey started on a murdering spree, torturing and killing people in order to find out who killed his girlfriend. But it was when he came face to face with his father that he committed his most heinous crime. He's said to have executed his father in a prison while serving time for murdering his mother with a knife. Filho removed his father's heart and ate some of it before throwing the rest away. Freaky, right? After his major killing spree, he was apprehended and imprisoned in 1973, but the killings continued. Pedrinho Matador butchered 4 people while incarcerated, resulting in his sentence being prolonged. He was later charged and sentenced to 126 years in prison, but under Brazilian law, no one can serve more than 30 years in prison. Regardless, he spent the majority of his adult life in prison, but was released in 2018. Dexter even inspired real-life murders. Dexter painted a harsh, realistic, and well-rounded portrayal of a serial murderer, resulting in a program full of multifaceted characters and a detailed examination of humanity's darkest side. The fictional murders perpetrated by Dexter Morgan, on the other hand, may have resulted in real-life killings. Andrew Conley, an Indiana adolescent turned himself in to authorities in 2009 and admitted strangling his brother to death. According to the New York Daily News, he claimed he had contemplated murder for years and felt exactly like Dexter Morgan, and that he felt impelled to carry it out. In 2014, an English teenager who was supposedly obsessed with Dexter stabbed his girlfriend to death and then used tree trimming tools to dispose of her body. He admitted to his sister shortly after that Ed forced me to do something horrible, tragically mimicking Dexter Morgan's relationship with his dark passenger. Mark Twitchell, a Dexter enthusiast who developed a Dexter-esque fan film and posted as Dexter Morgan on social media, is another example. Twitchell was convicted of first-degree murder in 2011 after planning to elaborate kill chamber. Quite insane to think that people actually mimic or get inspired by the behaviors Dexter portrays throughout the series. Andrew Conley. Another case seemingly inspired by the popular series Dexter was the brutal murder committed by Andrew Conley. Since ninth school, Andrew has dreamt about killing people and told his girlfriend that he wanted to be like Dexter. In 2010, he confessed to choking his 10-year-old brother and dragged him into a kitchen after he passed out after a wrestling match. Andrew then strangled his brother for 20 minutes while encasing him in 2 plastic bags. He also repeatedly slammed his brother's head against the ground before placing him into the trunk of his car. With his brother's body still in the trunk, he drove to his girlfriend's house and offered her a promise ring. Later, he dumped the body in a park. A very tragic and gruesome case. It's hard to know if you should blame the show for these murders or if this is just a tragic, natural consequence of mental health and bad influences. Season 9 details everything you need to know. Dexter Morgan has returned a decade after sailing off into the sunset storm, and he's ready for some new blood. The revival of Dexter was officially greenlit by Showtime in October 2020, with a launch date scheduled for November 7th, 2021. Of course, Michael C. Hall returns as the endearingly geeky Bay Harbor Butcher, aka the Miami, Florida blood splatter analyst serial murderer who focuses his bloodlust on murder other serial killers. Clyde Phillips, the original showrunner, returns as an executive producer on the new episodes. Season 9 of Dexter New Blood has everything you need to know. Who will be returning? Unfortunately, there won't be many familiar names in the revival series. At this moment, only Hall as Dexter, Carpenter as Deb, and John Lithgow as Arthur Mitchell, Trinity Killer, have been confirmed to return. Since Carpenter and Lithgow's characters died on the main show, Trinity was killed by Dexter in the season 4 finale, it's likely that they'll only appear in flashbacks and/or visions. What happened at the end of season 8? Season 8's end left things in Dexter's universe in a poor state. As longtime viewers of the original series will recall, the final episode, titled Remember the Monsters, ended with Deb, Dexter's sister, being shot and later dying of a deadly stroke as a result of Dexter's own error, and Dexter committing apparent suicide. Dexter recognized that everyone important to him had died, so he drove his boat into a hurricane. His colleagues and co-workers at the Miami Metro Police Department thought he died in the hurricane, but the character was later discovered living alone in Oregon as a lumberjack. Dexter's sometimes girlfriend and murder partner Hannah and his son Harrison escaped to Buenos Aires in the final minutes of season 8 when they learned of Dexter's death. The viewers, on the other hand, noticed that Dexter isn't dead. In order to save them, he faked his suicide and abandoned his son. Now he works for a lumber firm in Oregon under a new name, while Hannah raises Harrison on the other side of the world. And there you have it, everything you need to know about Dexter and some of the true stories this series is based on, along with some horrific horror stories that were inspired by the crime series. Make sure to let us know your thoughts down below. Which one of these surprised you the most? Are you going to be tuning into season 9? Let us know. But if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss any of our new and upcoming content. Thanks for watching.